Hello, hello, hello. Welcome today's uh, welcome to today's special stream. Um Today we're going to be doing something very special to me. I will be reading my novel on stream. Uh Essentially what my goal is to make this into essentially an audiobook slash drama of my story because why the hell not? I mean, it's just kind of sitting there gathering digital dust. Uh, this will be going on to YouTube in parts. I'll try to respond to chat as needed, but I think that might break the flow just a little bit. Um, so, uh, yeah, without further ado, let's get started. Uh, there's not really going to be any visuals, so you'll just have to sit there and just look at my pretty, pretty anime boy face. So, The Cycle Saga, Book 1, Ark of the Mercenary, by Redacted. Up. Do do do. So, the prologue. What exactly makes someone a monster? In the context of humans, it tends to refer to someone evil. But yet, when one steps out of their original scope of understanding, aren't we all monsters? From the time one wakes up, they are already performing cruel actions. They are cutting off a reality they fabricated in their mind and forcing their body to perform work. Is that not cruel to the cells that make up one's body? And what about the act of breathing? Sure, it has benefits to the environment, but it is also contributing toxins into the air. When one goes to the supermarket, is it not evil when one takes the last box of cereal? They are depriving others of subsistence, all so they can benefit. Any action taken could be considered cruel. Any choice made can be regarded as evil. As sentient beings, we tend to put these arbitrary titles on things to justify or condone our actions or others. And yet, we all know what a monster is. Despite the ambiguity of evil, when one thinks of a human monster, a clear image comes to mind. A mortal monster is someone who disregards lives, either taking pleasure or enjoyment from others' suffering. A human monster is someone who will commit unspeakable acts without a second thought and feel no remorse after the fact. And yet, it isn't always that simple, now is it? Behind every supposed monster, there is a reason, either through mental illness, past abuse, learned behaviors, or even good intentions. There is a reason. They may not be good reasons. The actions may not even make sense to someone else. But there are reasons. Just like everyone else, these monsters had their reasons. So who's to say that your own reasoning will turn you into a monster? Is it just inherent to sentient creatures to have these dormant monsters ready to come out? And to top it off, how does one even know when they became a monster? As far as they are aware, they are following their own reasoning, and just like anyone else would do, it's either through taking a step back or through mentions of others that individuals might see what they have become. But isn't it too late at that point? And what of those that realize they are monsters and accept it? Are they different beings altogether? If they are, then what would that make me exactly? Of the three most powerful, most ancient beings in the universe, I can humbly say that I take one of those positions. Though in truth, I don't really feel all that powerful, especially compared to the others. The other two hold up to the idea of gods in both power and attitude. And yet, if one were to look at me, they would just see an ordinary, albeit handsome man. I cannot create life, perform miracles, or even destroy a planet at the snap of my finger. Sure, I have a few neat tricks up my sleeve, but who doesn't? And yet, am I not so different from them? Mortals tend to see gods in two ways. Either they are like man, with flaws as well as strengths, just exceptionally more powerful. Or they view gods as perfect beings who can do no wrong. And yet, that is not all. That is not at all how they actually are. Even trying to understand the mindset of a god is impossible for a mortal. It is like comparing the mind of a housefly to that of the most intelligent human. Gods find themselves above mortals and prefer not to interact with when possible. Though when they do, it is always with an objective in mind, and that objective typically benefits the gods somehow. While mortals like to focus on the more positive stories, they ignore the tragedies gods cause, which would make sense, especially to those mortals who view gods as perfect beings. Why would a god needlessly wipe out a civilization for no reason? Why would a god allow for so many horrific events to occur when they can do something to stop it? These are imperfections, which gods do not have, and so mortals find ways to justify the gods' actions, painting them in a better light. But in the end, aren't they covering up for monsters? Just as other gods, I too have interacted with mortals. And just like other gods, I too have an objective in mind. I did not care for the mortals' feelings, nor did I care about the direct consequences. All I cared about were the end results. That's what I have always managed about. Ah, okay. That's what I always managed to care about. And while I can try and argue that my actions are for the greater good, in the end, my goal is to wipe out all life, along with the universe itself. So, even though I'm not as powerful as the other two gods, I too wish to bring terror and destruction to mortals. But unlike them, and unlike many mortals who try to make the claim, I am the true monster. My actions in the past are enough to prove that, and the worst is yet to come. I must accept that I am a monster, even if it causes me to lose sleep. But even monsters are capable of doing good, and if I am to act without remorse, I must do something good, even if it's small. Oh boy. Yep. Uh, quick thing. Book definitely needs a hard edit. I edited it myself, but there's just I think there's some places where words are missing because I used a AI editor, and sometimes it just removes words. And because my book is like 337 pages, uh, you know, sometimes words get lost. But I'll try to correct those words as I'm reading it to make it make sense because it's my story, so you guys can go fuck yourselves. I don't have to stay true to the exact words on the page. Okay, alright. Chapter 1. Just Another Monday. Just like always, Monday mornings are absolute chaos. The people who had a lovely weekend off are all swarming out, trying to shrug off their dread of the week to come. Unsurprisingly, this leaves everyone running a bit behind, which of course will cause issues that are entirely typical for Mondays. And of course, I am having the most Monday one could have. Unlike others, I don't have the luxury of working a 9 to 5 job, nor do I get weekends off. I work my night gig, then I have to rush through the busy morning streets to get to my side job. Usually this isn't too bad, but Mondays tend to be a little different. My gig was unable to pay me last night, as the truck transporting their cash wouldn't arrive until Tuesday, and the bank's online services were down. This isn't the first time this happened, so I decided to take an IOU and be on my way instead of making up my usual fuss. Now, I originally left with more than enough time to get to my side job, but of freaking course, there were going to be delays. And it being Monday and all, those delays were going to be ridiculous. The first delay was was the morning of the walking coffee. The first delay was sorry. The first delay of the morning was the walking coffee addicts. Hordes of grumpy, irritable people roaming the streets, awaiting their coffee joints of choice to open, so they could finally be functional members of society. Somehow, I managed to get through the crowds, only getting into 3 fistfights. The subsequent delay was by far the most absurd. For whatever reason, once a year, there is an odd event where the platypuses imported from Earth march through the streets. Supposedly, this has some historical significance, but I just think it's the Forge Master off his rocker. It took 2 whole damn hours for the platypuses to pass, causing me to be a half an hour late. I finally managed to reach my side job, and my boss was visibly upset. I can't blame him. I usually run late on Mondays. "Where the hell have you been?" he croaked. He was a gross old man who seemed to eat his own weight for breakfast. His white-collared shirt was primarily clean, save for giant sweat stains that originated from his pits. And it was evident by the smell these were not recent. Sorry, there were some odd delays this morning, I responded, trying to sound somewhat remorseful. "I should fire you right here and now." This wasn't the first time he threatened to fire me, and it probably wouldn't be the last. But unlike others, I tend not to put up with his shit. Oh, really now? And where else will you find? Where else will all my adoring fans eat their crappy pancakes? It was clear I struck a nerve, as thick, meaty veins appeared ready to burst out of his head. "Now listen here, you little girl. You're lucky I took you in at all. If it wasn't for me, you'd probably be out banging strangers for cash." Most other days, I would have taken his insult with a smile and made a sarcastic remark. But today, I was not in the mood for bullshit. I took a deep breath and looked the slimy old man in the eyes. "Do you remember our little conversation a month ago? About minding your damn manners? I let a lot of your shit slide. But you do remember who you're dealing with, right?" It took the slime ball a few moments to realize I was not being sarcastic. And like a puppy doing something it knows it shouldn't, he began to tremble. Right. It was all in good fun, right? You should know I was just joking around, right?" I always hated spineless men. They are no fun at all. Shifting back into my usual sarcastic tone, I responded, "Of course you were just joking around. A smart, business-savvy man like yourself wouldn't be dumb enough to piss me off, right? Especially before opening. Think of all the property damage. What would the customers think?" It was sad, as this slimy asshole nodded his head and tried to slip back into the cafe. "Oi, I'm not done with you." Like a startled animal, he turned back expecting danger. What? What is it?" he whimpered. "My pay. You will have it today, right?" Uh, about that," he said in a pathetic tone. "Let me guess. Business is tight, eh?" "You know how it is, Mo. All the bills, the insurance, and of course the constant fines." "Maybe you should control your libido and anger." "I try, but these damn cameras track everything." "How sad for you," I responded dully. "How the hell do you manage? I don't see them constantly finding you, and you're the angriest person I know." "Aw, are you trying to butter me up now? I didn't know you had a sweet side."
Whatever. Listen, I'll let you keep all the tips you get today, alright?"
Holy hell. For once in my life, he actually managed to surprise me. Well, that's unexpected.
"It's just this once. I'm sorry that I still haven't been able to pay you is all."
I sighed. I understand. It's rough for everyone right now. Even my night gig is feeling it. How about we get to work, huh? I'll even be a little more peppy than normal. Just this once, of course. He managed a faint smile. He might be a rotten old pervert, but he was still good. He was still a good man deep down, though admittedly, you would have to go pretty deep.
"Do your best,"
he said softly as he opened the door, and we made our way inside. Now, unfortunately, of all the cafes I could have worked at, I ended up at them. I ended up one with a damn uniform. I ended up. Wait. Okay, alright. Editor did a little bit of a weirdy thing. Alright, I ended up at one with a damn uniform. A frilly, pink maid outfit paired with cat ears and a tail. I went over to the mirror to make sure everything looked all right. Honestly, I can't understand why guys are constantly swooning over me. I was rather slim, though I hid some serious muscles underneath. My face was covered in bruises and scratches, though the most striking feature was my scarlet red eyes and snow white hair, which I kept short. But other than that, I looked more like a guy than a woman, though that's how I preferred it. People take men more seriously. I took a deep breath and braced myself for the most challenging part of the day. As soon as I stepped into the serving room, I had too many damn eyes on me. There were 10 patrons for now, and all of them were eyeing me top to bottom. All of them men, and all of them had leering grins on their faces. Like always, I would go to a customer and cutely introduce myself. This maid cafe was themed around cat girl waitresses, and the customers paid for a show. It wasn't only horny old men though, as the occasional writer and manga artist would come in. I would tend to give them special treatment, significantly if they had slipped me an early release of their latest work. It was going to sound childish, but this was the main reason I took the job in the first place. The morning went uh the morning went on like usual. The men tipped well, and I had 3 new manga chapters to read tonight. I was set to head out. Just I just had one last patron to handle. Typically, we mainly deal with regulars, so a new face was definitely odd. I approached the man and gave him a very tired, "Good morning, master." When he looked up from his menu, his content look soon turned to pure dread. I was taken aback, as this was not the look I was expecting. But when I looked closer, this man did seem a bit familiar. They were skinny, dirty, and had bloodshot eyes. I noticed that he was even beat up, as bruises covered his ratty face, and he even had a broken arm. That's when things clicked into place. "Oh shit! I broke your arm last night," I said happily. The man's face turned a pale white, and he looked like he wanted to hurl. I, I didn't know you worked here," he sputtered out. "Well, yeah, I gotta do something to make it seem like I'm not a merc. It's just so weird." Yeah. "Well, I could see that, especially after I killed all your friends and broke your arm," I said casually. On that, "How the hell are you alive? I could have sworn I shot you. Like 6 times at least." He winced when I mentioned that. He rummaged through his coat and pulled out a book. I guess this saved me." "What the actual hell? There is no freaking way a book could have stopped my bullets." The man started to open it and turned a few pages. He wasn't reading it, just looking through the pictures. Well, it's not a normal book." He showed me its contents. It was a bunch of circles that had intricate drawings inside of them. "It's a spell book. You could tell by the rune." "Oh, freaking course, it's magic. I was told there were no mages in your group. Bad intel?" The man looked sheepish. Still in apparent fear. No. I'm just kinda interested in that old stuff, even if I can't cast any spells myself." "Oh. So, you're just a dork." He winced, almost as if I hit him. "Yeah, I guess you could say that." "That would explain why you went to a cat cafe, especially after nearly dying." Y- yeah. "Oh, come on now. Relax, I'm not gonna kill you," I said, getting tired of his cowering. "I was only there to recover the assets your boss stole. Basic merc work. You know how it is. Somehow you lived, and since I wasn't paid to kill you specifically, you're free to go as far as I care." Really?" "Yeah, really. Don't work for free and all that. Plus, I can't kill you now. You're too much of a damn dork." I laughed. The man laughed as well. "Well, that's good, I guess. But, but, but you better tip me pretty damn well. After all, not everyone gets to see me in this outfit, especially the ones I attempt to kill." All right, I think that's fair." he said, fumbling into his wallet, placing a large stack of cash on the table. I took the man's order and served him his crappy pancakes. I swear, if it wasn't for the cat maids, this place would be obliterated for its that excuse of food. After collecting my tips in manga, I changed and made my way out. The boss man waved goodbye, and I waved back. As much shit as I gave that place, a part of me does like it. Before heading home, I made my way to a nearby convenience store, where I stocked up on junk food and drinks. I had the next 2 days off, and I was definitely not leaving my apartment. It felt weird paying for my food, but it wouldn't have felt right stealing, as I actually had money for once. I paid for my food and made my way home. It was nearly noon, though it was hard to tell. The sky was generally obscured by a thick layer of smog, all coming from the factories that kept most of the people on this planet employed. And if the smog sky wasn't depressing enough, the buildings were the sad whipped cream. Almost all the buildings were in shambles and run down. Many were outright abandoned, while others looked as if they were torched. The only things that even remotely looked clean were the emote sense cameras, which were helped to ensure a stable, healthy society. But we all knew that was bullshit, especially when the whole plant looked like this. Well, especially when the whole planet looked like this. But I guess that's what you get for being born as a classy planet. Absolute poverty. As much shit as I want to give the people in charge of this hellhole, even they aren't well off. They are more well off than us, but they might as well be peasants compared to the leaders of the Alliance. Besides the cameras, the only things that looked remotely new were the factories, which towered above the buildings, made out of fresh concrete and polished steel. And that's because they are the only hope of improving this planet's classification. Not that it would matter, as we probably would be taken over by the Empire in 10 years. I stopped a moment to sigh. I really gotta stop with all this politics. It's too depressing, man. I continued walking until I reached my front door. In front was a tiny little package. Upon seeing it, I nearly dropped my groceries as I dove down to grab it. Hell yes! It finally came in! I exclaimed as I kicked open my door, which I never locked, and threw my groceries to the side. I quickly opened the box to reveal a video game case. It was a retro game from nearly 5,000 years ago, but as retro things were the new trend, companies cashing in by reproducing them. Ah, but as retro things were a new trend, companies were cashing in by reproducing them. As I was about to go and put the disc into the system, I tripped over a large pile of trash consisting of bottles, wrappings, and containers. I looked at the bump and saw that it used to be a part of a more enormous pile of trash, which had collapsed overnight. I guess I should clean up a bit, I admitted. I went over to the food I just bought and put it into the refrigerator, which was surprisingly clean and empty. I had been working jobs for a month straight. I would just come home, eat, and pass out. I proceeded to grab a few trash bags, paper towels, and cleaning spray and got to work. After about an hour, my apartment was looking good. The apartment wasn't that oppressive, as it was just one large room. The kitchen was in one corner and had the basics like a stove, microwave, sink, and fridge, all now clean and trash free. My bed was in another corner, now adequately made, with a nightstand next to it. The rest of the space was for my work gear and hobby stuff. My entertainment center, which housed my TV and game consoles, was polished and free of dust. The locker where I kept my tools was shiny, and the shelves where I stored all my manga and books were adequately sorted and cleaned. By the time I was finished, I was tired as hell. The next thing I knew, I was collapsed on the floor as my TV flashed many colors. And like that, I was asleep. Chapter 2. Day off ruined. The only worse thing than getting no sleep is having an excellent sleep session ruined. If it's something falling or if it's something falling or waking myself up, I curse a bit but go back to sleep. On the other hand, if someone other than me is trying to wake me up early, that's how people end up dead. And someone was going to wind up a corpse today, as the sound of my phone waked me from a remarkable dream. My eyes struggled to open, and I felt hot. Somehow, I ended up in my bed, all wrapped up in my large blanket. By the time I managed to actually open my eyes and sit up, my phone stopped ringing. I sighed and went to lay back down when my phone started going off again. I groaned as I painfully removed the blanket from myself, exposing myself to the cold noon air. I looked on my nightstand for my phone, but it wasn't there. The sound seemed to be coming from across the room. It didn't take me long to find the damn thing, as it was next to the television where I guess I passed out. Hoping it wasn't just a scam caller, my heart sank when I saw it was Ross calling. Ross is one of the employees at the mercenary firm I worked at, and assigns contracts to qualified mercs. I hit accept. "What's up, Ross?" A young man's voice came out from the phone speaker. "Hey, sorry for waking you, especially on your day off. But we have two major things we need you to do for us." "And what the hell is that?" "I said no contracts. Remember?" Well, yes. But one of these isn't a contract." This was definitely odd. All my time working for these guys, and all I've ever done was contract work. "What is it? Do you want me to clean the shitters or something? I gotta say, I'm not going to go into the male's bathroom. That place is a disaster." No, nothing like that. As you recently turned 22, we have to write up a performance report." "Fuck!" I blurted out. I had a vague idea of what performance reports were, but I never thought I would actually have to do one. I mean, to the world, I pretty much don't exist. What possible chance is there for me to go up a class? Freaking none. I know, but we're required to do it. I already wrote up most of it. We just have to finish it up. We just have to finish it up, and I'll set it on up," Ross said, obviously treading on water. "All right, fine, whatever. But why the hell didn't we do this yesterday? You seem to be in a bad mood, that's all. And I know you want to start your time off as soon as possible, so I thought it could wait until Wednesday." First off, always assume I'm in a bad mood. This was a lie. I was actually generally in a great mood. I just hate people trying to get me to do more shit. And second, what changed? "Well, that's the other thing I need to talk to you about," Ross said sheepishly. "Let me guess. It's a contract." "Yeah." "Well, get someone else to do it. I'm off, remember?" "Well, there really isn't anyone else." "Oh, bullshit. There are normally 15 guys standing around with their dicks in their hands waiting for jobs. Just get one of them to do it." "Well, this job isn't suitable for those with a lack of, uh, finesse?" I sighed. I completely understood what he meant. It was a stealth op, which means that the typical meat slabs won't cut it. "Does it have to be done now?" "Unfortunately, yes. This is an emergency contract." "Fine. I'll be on my way. But I expect triple the pay, along with my pay from yesterday." "Deal." "Trucks just came in, so I'll have your money ready whenever you're done. Sending you the details now. Drop off is at the office." "Understood. Expect to see me soon." "Will do. And expect to be knocked on your ass for ruining a cool dream." W- Will do." The call ended, and a text message was received a moment later. The message read, "Class E emergency contract. High priority. High value Class E citizen has been kidnapped by a gang of local thugs. Violence is threatened unless suspects are granted Class D access. Risk of target death from police extraction high. Mission: retrieve high value citizen without alerting thugs. Lethal force is authorized as long as the target remains safe. Further details will be provided momentarily." A few moments later, The address of the thug's base, along with a picture of the target, showed up in the chat. I knew the area and expected moderate resistance. The target looked like a kid, probably some prominent businessman's kid, who was plucked off the street. I went over to my wall locker and began selecting my gear. Since this was a stealth op, it would be better to go in light. I chose twin daggers. I chose twin daggers, thin, razor sharp, and able to slice through most metals and people. I added a silenced pistol, along with a few magazines of both arc and normal rounds. Finally, I grabbed a few tear gas and smoke grenades, along with a transparent mask, and made my way out. Businessmen, homeless, and thugs roamed the streets. Most of them were clustered in tight groups, in areas where emote sense cameras could not detect them. The cameras are claimed to prevent crime by reading a person's emotions and thoughts. Uh, these cameras are claimed to prevent crime by reading a person's emotions and thoughts before they cause harm. That's what the Alliance says. At least, in reality, they are used to find anyone having a bad day or detain them for stupid reasons. Trying to hide from them was pointless, as they would eventually get scanned and be taken in for rehabilitation. But when they were released, once they have one moment of anger or desire to commit a crime, they will be taken in again. That is, unless they have a gang permit. This paradoxical permit allows for the formation of gangs to make crimes, but these crimes are regulated and are pretty much treated like regular jobs, though with the caveat of being able to be arrested if caught or even killed, which is where mercenaries come in. A police force compromises. The police force comprises of bots finding people or human officers stopping anyone who pops on an emote sense. So when it comes to dealing with thugs and gangs, they push it off onto mercenaries. So, in essence, mercs and gangs are literally killing each other. A tremendous fucking way of whittling down the population. I said hello to a few bums I knew from the back of my from back in my childhood, but they were too hopped up on psych meds to respond. Just another aspect of living in a Class E city, I guess. The walk to the gang's hideout was uneventful. Just like the hideout itself, the building looked like any other building in the area. Decades old concrete and a standard box shape, which stood 3 stories tall. The windows were stained yellow due to acid rain and age. As the gangs were legal and technically a business, they were allowed their own office building, which they share with many other bands of gangs. So it wasn't a surprise to see multiple merc vehicles parked out front and the sound of gunfire filling the air. I looked at my map to make sure I had the location right, and once I was sure, I skirted around the side of the building. The gang's office should be on the 2nd floor, with window access, so it should be easy to spot it. I started to scale the side of the building, which had many spots to latch onto, as it was severely run down. As I climbed over to where the gang's office window should be, I occasionally stopped when I feared I would be spotted by a random window lurker. Once it seemed clear, I continued to climb. As soon as I reached the window, I peeked inside to get a good scope of the place, but made sure to keep myself out of view. The target was definitely inside, along with 6 armed men. None of them looked to be mages, nor did they have any firearms. It seemed they were just rag-clad homeless men armed with pipes and wrenches. I continued to observe the room, and I spotted only a single camera, though fortunately it wasn't an emote sense, which meant I could slip past it with no problem. Sorry. Though fortunately it was an emote sense, which meant I could slip past it no problem. Emote sense cameras were the norm, as they pretty much handle all aspects of security. But some old timers and paranoid bastards still prefer to use old CCTV setups, which I have unfortunately run into. The office was your standard startup company layout. A bunch of mild blue cubicles housed a desk and a chair. The 5 men were standing in one of the hallways created by the kiosks, and in a clearly marked water cooler area, though there was no water cooler. Finally, and not surprisingly in the least, the glass was made out of Alliance Corp anti casualty glass. Or, in other words, glass that requires effort to break. I could use my dagger to cut a hole, but that would just make things a bit too obvious. Plus, smashing through the glass wouldn't be all that stealthy. Admittedly, it would be kind of fun. With the area surveyed, I placed a tracking nut on the railing of the window and made my way up the building. Once I reached the roof, I found the access hatch to the building's maintenance corridors and slipped my way in. This wasn't the first time I had to run an op in this building, and it definitely wouldn't be the last. As I would normally do, I pulled out my dagger and slashed a small line on the wall at the start of the corridor, along with 74 others. 75 times I have come to this dump and cleaned up some street thugs. But now wasn't the time to get caught up in work repetition blues. I had to get to the target. I crawled through the dark metal corridors, occasionally checking my phone to ensure I was heading towards the tracker. Thank God it was winter, or crawling through here would suck, as I definitely knew from experience. Eventually, I reached my beacon, and I looked for the proper hatch that would lead me to the gang's office. There were two, and judging from my positioning, it had to be the left hatch. I slowly opened it and surveyed the area below. It was clearly a kitchen, with tables, a fridge, a wimpy coffee maker, linoleum floors, and classic fluorescent lights. There was only one person standing guard. I waited a few moments, listening closely for potential passerby. Once it was clear, I took my shot. With dagger in hand, I dropped softly to the floor. The man was too distracted by whatever was playing his headphones to care. Carefully, like a lioness stalking her prey, I crept closer and closer. I had to make sure my first strike was both fast and lethal, to ensure he didn't scream out for help. One wrong move, one wrong sound, and the target might end up dead. And frankly, I actually felt like getting paid tonight. Once I knew I was close enough, I reached out to grab the man's mouth with my left hand, and with the right, I plunged my dagger into the side of his neck, followed by a thrust forward, effectively slicing through the arteries, veins, and trachea. I immediately felt the man's weight in my arms as his whole body went limp. Once I knew he couldn't make any sounds, I softly put his body on the floor as he began to drown in his own blood. I realized that I was now covered in blood, but it didn't really bother me. This was just par for the course, after all. With the first target down, I made my way to the door and looked around for drifters. Once the area was clear, I made my way down the hallway into the central part of the office. But it was clear something was wrong. There were only two people in the room, and the target was nowhere in sight. The main room was dark, full of interconnected cubicles. Needing to get to the bottom of this, I carefully skirted around the edge of a cubicle maze, trying to properly position myself. I slipped into a cubicle and began to figure out what was going on. But just my damn luck, the cubicle wasn't empty. A large, burly man stood up with a stupid expression on his face. Hey! I was sleeping here. Find your own sleepy cell, the giant drawled. Quickly, I raised my dagger, anticipating danger, but the large man wasn't making any moves. He was just cleaning the sleep out of his eyes. Knowing this might be my only chance, I readied my dagger for a single deadly strike. Hey, Fred, someone over there with you? Is it Greg? Said a voice next to me. I whirled around to see a more petite man who wore a horrific polka dot suit. He had a scrunched up face, and his bald head was essentially a mirror. Hey, who the hell are... But he cut himself off. He came closer to me, and I could tell he wasn't armed. Still, I was ready to stab him and shoot the giant if things went south. He leaned in close, as if trying to find a pimple, and finally snapped his finger. Ah! I knew it! Hey guys! It's Mordred! Girls come to party! I stood there, confused as what was going on. Lights came on and made things much more awkward. The men in front of me were not the people guarding the target, nor was a target even here. More colorfully dressed people began gathering around us, and something about them seemed a bit too familiar. Wait, Tiffany? I exclaimed when I put a name to the face. He stretched his arm out, trying to make himself look large, though he was very tiny. Who else would it be? No one could be. No one is as awesome or as handsome as me, Tiffany the Pirate King. The men gathered around started to clap and cheer as I put away my daggers, feeling really silly. Uh, when exactly did you become a pirate king, Tiff? Last I checked, you were still a bunch of low-level losers who stole a barely functioning ship, robbed defenseless junk food transports, and somehow tried to make people take them seriously as pirates. Well, my dear Mordred, that sincerely hurts me to my core. It's been years since we last had a chat, and you immediately go for the heart, he said in a dramatic flare. Oh, come on now. We both know that's a bunch of bull. You ain't got a heart. Tiffany laughed. Well, that's true enough, I guess. What brings you here anyway? Wanted to say hello to your future husband? In your dream, shorty. And, this is gonna be a bit awkward, but I'm here for a mission. The smile on the small man's face vanished as concern quickly took over. What? We just got our permit today, and we haven't done anything illegal yet. This isn't fair. This is pure harassment. I demand to speak to your manager. Relax, relax. I'm not here for you. I'm here for your neighbors. The concern immediately vanished as his cocky smile returned. Oh, those losers? Sheesh. What'd they do to get a badass like you after them? They kidnapped someone's kid. Apparently they're pretty important. Tiffany laughed. Let me guess. They're trying to go negotiate with them, right? Probably something stupid, like extra rations or something. Nope, they want to change the class. Oh, oh shit, really? Are they really that stupid? Like the Alliance would ever allow that. Hell, the rations would be more possible. Yeah, I guess. Though, I'm kind of surprised. About what? Well, in cases like this, even if some important kids in person was, well, in cases like this, even if some important person's kid was involved, the higher-ups would just kind of have everyone killed. So send a message, you know? And almost if on cue, my phone sounded. I quickly checked it and saw that there was an update to the operation. Attention. As per Ark Alliance Judicial Branch's instructions, all targets will be eliminated. Saving the target is now an optional objective. Loss of target's life will not result in loss of pay. Payment won't be increased due to risk. Well, shit, I said, and showed Tiffany my phone. Guess you were right. Always am, Mo. Always am, he laughed. Also, why haven't you gotten your implant yet? You're definitely old enough by now, and it's gotta be annoying to carry that thing around, he said, gesturing to my phone. You do know implants require mana, right? I darted back, slipping my phone back into my pocket. Ah, right. I forgot that you're a freak with no magic. Shut it, gnome. Oh, feisty. Maybe I should grab some drinks from the kitchen, and we could have a little date. No, I quickly responded, and with the mention of the word kitchen, say, that guy who was in the kitchen listening to music, was he one of yours? Who? Giorgio? Yeah, he's one of ours. Why are you asking? Here's the awkward part. I hope he wasn't too important to you. He might be slightly dead. Slightly dead? How can you be slightly dead? Tiff asked sincerely. Well, I might have sliced his neck halfway off. Silence filled the air as the pirates took a brief moment to mourn their fallen comrade. The large, burly man dipped his head down as Tiff closed his eyes. And once the moment was over, Tiffany resumed his playful demeanor. don't worry about it. The dude was new and a massive prick. Would have probably killed him myself. You seem to get over fallen allies kinda easily. Hey, you don't become the Pirate King by losing a few men. Well, hey, you don't become a Pirate King without losing a few men. First, that's a horrible way of justifying it. And secondly, you are not a Pirate King. Ah, but after this job, I will be. And what exactly are you, and why exactly are you here? You said you got a game permit, right? Yep. Our goal here is twofold. We're going to launch raids on the devilish Miss Sammy Smile Factory and loot the place dry. The toy factory? I said with genuine confusion. Yup. But for a moment, I forgot I was talking to the most ridiculous man in the universe. Okay, what's the second goal? Recruitment, of course. After a mishap on a remote mining facility that may or may not have involved 6 metric tons of scissors, we found ourselves lacking in manpower. Ah, well, I'm sure you'll find someone. Most people would kill to get off this rock. Great! That's exactly what I want to hear. I sighed. I honestly regret that I consider this weird man a friend. Even though this reunion was, excellent and all, I still have a job to do. Hey, Tiff. I still got a job to do. How about we catch up another time? Sounds good, you lass. I gotta go make sure those fools clean up Giorgio. Don't want the corpse stinking up our new office. This was a very irritating detour. I went back to the kitchen, where some of Tiffany's men were working on cleaning up the mess I made. I stepped over the body and climbed back up through the hatch to the maintenance corridor. This time I took the left hatch and landed in a similar looking kitchen. But unlike Tiffany's, there was no dead body or people cleaning it up. No, this room was empty. I listened closely for signs of activity when I heard them. Listen here, you corporate ass! I will kill your son if you don't give us what we want. It was clear that this was the right place. The man was on the phone with someone, making his demands. Unfortunately for him, other arrangements had been made. Rather than going straight towards the sound of the shouting, I decided to search the rest of the office, ensuring nobody got the jump on me. And, much to my surprise, these morons didn't have a single person on guard duty, nor did they have anyone patrolling the rest of the office. Every single one of them was in the central area, waiting for something that would never happen. Just as I saw before, 6 men armed with blunt objects, all standing around the kid. Since saving the kid was secondary, acting with tact no longer mattered. The next thing the group knew, tear gas started to fill the room. All 6 men and the kid were all starting to tear up as faces started to become swollen. At this very moment, I activated my mask, deploying a transparent gas mask that would protect me from the smoke. I used this moment of distraction to pull out my pistol and took aim. Though I lacked any magic, I still had some tricks up my sleeve. I shifted my focus slightly, and 7 blue ghost-like figures could be seen through the smoke as the rest of my vision was completely black. These were still the same men. However, I was now seeing their mana. With 6 shots meeting the skulls of their intended targets, the 6 thugs all collapsed, and the traces of their mana vanished. Unfortunately, the kid was still alive. I shifted my vision back to normal and saw that the gas was still thick. So, deciding that I would just wait it out, I decided to go away for a little bit. As this place was constantly attacked by mercs, a few upgrades were implemented, such as a ventilation system. I went over, hit a button, and a loud fan started to suck up the tear gas out of the room. I went back to the kitchen and started to look around for some snacks, and luckily, this place was fully stocked. I guess these thugs just rented this place out. Their loss, I think. I looked through the snacks and found my favorite chips and a nice cola, and a nice cold soda to complement it. I made my way back to the primary office area, took a seat, and waited for the gas to clear. The kid was not thrilled about being gassed, as he was screaming and crying, only to make things worse for himself. By the time the gas was cleared, he was leaking snot and drool while he cried the entire time. Back during our trip back to the office. Once there, during our trip back to the Mark office. Once there, the kid's dad was glad to see his little flesh rodent was safe, and proceeded to yell at me for putting him in danger. The dad erupted with rage when I pointed out I didn't have to save the brat. So, of course, I knocked him on his ass, and he ran away like a little child. It was satisfying seeing those two elite snobs crying their eyes out. Ross, who had been hiding up until now, finally came out with 3 gold cards. Ross was a very stringy looking man in his early 20s. He had well groomed hair and wore a polo t-shirt with slacks. He looked like the sad dork he sounded like on the phone. And his eyes screamed, "Don't hurt me." I reached out and grabbed the cards. "This everything?" "Yep," Ross responded. Your pay for both the nights are on those. Well, your pay for both jobs are on those, with the extra coming from the man you just punched. Aw, maybe I shouldn't have punched him so hard. Nah, rich snobs like that don't really care about their kids. It's more about appearances, you know? And dead kids don't look that great. I guess you got a point, I responded as I put the gold cards in my back pocket. Now I would have to run back to the, now I would have to run to now I would have to run by the bank to upload these. So, is that all? Can I go now? I asked, hoping for a yes. I'm really sorry, but we gotta do your evaluation. It'll be over quickly. I promise, Ross said in a gentle tone. Alright, fine, let's get this over with, I said, resigned to my fate of tedious paperwork. Ross led me to the back office, where 2 chairs were set up at a desk, with a large stack of paperwork ready. Though I haven't done an evaluation before, I knew they were a long and tiresome process. I sat down opposite Ross, and he handed me forms to sign, as he explained a bunch of dumb shit. I ignored most of it, but I understood the basics. Pretty much, since we were a Class E planet, the Alliance requires us to have an evaluation done every 3 months. We are judged and graded through these evaluations, and our grades determine if we go up a class rank or down. But since we are already the lowest class, we just stay here. And to make matters more fun, if we score a single dismal on the eval, we will remain stuck here. We won't be considered for reclassification for 10 years. Truly riveting stuff. After signing a mountain of paperwork, my hand felt like it was ready to cry. But luckily, we were at the final form, though this required an actual discussion. Ross adopted a more business-like manner, which was a bit odd. Alright, so time to go over your performance. First, we are starting off with job performance. As I tend to stay often, you provide quality work and are dedicated to the team. I would say that would warrant an excellent, correct? Yeah, whatever, I guess, I said, bored out of my mind. Alright, second one, expertise. Frankly, your job is mostly killing people, which I guess you do well. But since you do cause a mess and you can't kill with your mind, I'll just give you a satisfactory. That's good with you? Sure. Okay. Social life. As far as I'm aware, you don't really go out that much and don't have a social circle of your own. You tend to stay inside and play video games and read books when you're not at work. Would that be correct? Freaking ouch, man. Way to call me out. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Okay, so because you fall into the antisocial category, I'll have to unfortunately give you a below satisfactory. I'm sorry about that. Whatever. It's like I care about how the Alliance cares how I spend my time. Alright, Next is community assistance. Since you assist the community by helping fight crime, I say that definitely screams above satisfaction. Wouldn't you agree? I guess. Great. Last two. This one is easy. Education. You might just try to fool everyone, but I know you're a smart cookie, so I'll mark you down as satisfactory. Hey, please don't call me that again. Like, ever again. My apologies. I guess I'm too far in the zone. Yeah, it's fine. Let's just get this over with. Alright, last one. Law infractions. For this, I'll just pull your record really quick and see any and all violations. He typed a few things into his computer, his eyes opened wide, and seemed he was about to faint from shock. Well, that's certainly unexpected. Concerned, I looked over at his screen and just saw my name. What? You didn't know my name or something? Nah, it's everything else, or more specifically, the lack of. According to this, you have never once committed an infraction, not even a single mood swing. Heck, even I have my fair share of infractions. I mean, I have heard of people without any infractions, but what? Well, and please don't hurt me for this, but I figured that you, of all people, would have thousands of infractions. Well, as you can see, I am very clearly, oh, well, as you can see very clearly, I am an innocent and kind girl. Ross laughed and I punched him in the arm. Sorry, it's still surprising is all. But I guess that's how it is. I'll put you down as an excellent. Now, let me go over the scores. He started to read the scores, and a big smile ran across his face. Well. Looks like you might be getting off this rock. Oh, really now? Yep. Based on my math, you would actually qualify for a Class B planet. That's absolutely fantastic. Oh, wow. That really is wonderful. I lied, trying not to sound bothered. Alright, I'll send this up the chain for review. I'll let you know when the meeting with the adjudicator is so we can finalize this paperwork. That should be about a month from now, and from there, we'll see if we can get you off this rock. Great, I responded. Is that all? Yep, you're free to go. Awesome. Since I had to come in today, I'll be taking Thursday off. Alright, I'll see you on Friday then. I'll make sure to save some nice contracts for you. Cool. I walked out of his office and out of the Merc building. Before I knew it, I was already home, changed out of my blood-stained clothes. After I put them in my high-powered washing machine, I collapsed in my bed and started to curse at the top of my lungs. I wasn't mad about any specific thing, just the overall state of my life. After a few rants about the Alliance, corporations, Tiffany, Ross, and the number 8, I finally did pass out. Chapter 2.5 Newcomer's Guide to the Alliance. Salutations and welcome to the Ark Alliance! If you are reading this, you are either a CEO or leader of a recently acquired planet. If you are not and fall into the general populace, please turn this in to the nearest Ark Protection Unit and report to the nearest welfare facility for retraining. This document's goal will be to inform newly acquired or annexed planets about all functions of the Alliance. After reading this information-packed document, please address them with your Alliance liaison if you have further questions. History of the Alliance. So, how exactly did little old humanity go from a single planet all the way to a universal superpower, all within 50,000 years? Well, through good old human ingenuity is how. Back when we only had Earth to call home, humanity was facing a grave crisis. Individuals experienced with magic, also known as mages, came into power after the horrific human-demon wars in the early years of the current era. Since they were the most studied and were considered heroes, mages soon found themselves as kings, lords, heads of state. For the first few hundred years, humanity saw nothing but peace and prosperity As technological advancements skyrocketed, by the early 15th century, technology was quickly approaching the capabilities of magic. So, as mages were slowly becoming obsolete, they started to lose power. In addition to this loss of power, mages were also hosting events called the Crucible. The Crucible was an event where 10 mages would fight to the death, causing massive destruction with every event. The events started off small, but over the ages, the events grew in scale. During the 20th century, many catastrophic events occurred that rocked the balance of power. As such, the nations of the time banned both mages and most occult practices. However, this would fail to stop the mages, and the final crucible was held. This event would have caused the utter destruction of humanity and the universe. However, the event was thwarted thanks to the then Arthur Tempest and the anti mage force. It was at this time that two very potent energy sources were found. First was aura, an energy that seemed to react based off of on faith, and was controlled entirely by a being known as the God of Light. The second energy source, and the one we use regularly, was Ark. The intricacies of Ark will be explained later. However, its introduction to humanity was a game changer. With Ark, humanity created machines thought only to be science fiction. It did not take us long to unlock FTL, well, faster than light travel, along with the ability to readily colonize planets. However, there was a stark divide between humanity. The destructive nature of humanity had left its scars on society. As such, the people of the time wanted to shy away from it, and thanks to both Aura and Ark, they gave humanity the perfect alternative. However, the two energies were entirely incompatible, which raised the question of which should be used. Since no agreement was made, humanity was effectively split between those using Aura and those using Ark. Eventually, Earth became uninhabitable due to the actions of mages. So there was a mass exodus. At this time, Arthur Tempest, now known as Artorius, created the Holy Empire of Eternal Light, composed of all those who desired to follow the path of Aura. As for Ark, their exodus was much more chaotic. Since there was no unifying force, many former nations of the Earth and corporations set out to colonize their own worlds, while having loose connections to other Ark using worlds. While having loose connections to other Ark using worlds, this time was filled with chaos and confusion, as small-scale wars and territory disputes were abundant. The Empire used this chaos to claim many struggling planets, adding to their quickly expanding empire. The disorganization of Ark-using planets would continue for some time until the infamous Cyber Dragon Wars. A species of cybernetic dragons suddenly appeared from unexplored space and began attacking all human planets. The Empire was able to put up a fight, though they were struggling to push back. As for Ark worlds, they found themselves being decimated, as many planets did not have a military. As more planets began to fall, many leaders of Ark-powered planets gathered and laid the groundwork for the Ark Alliance we know today. Thanks to these pioneers, Ark-powered planets started to work together, creating the production powerhouse that the Alliance is now. It did not take long for the new Alliance to not only defend against the dragons, but with the help of the Empire, both completely exterminated the dragons. With humanity safe from destruction, both factions focused inwards to rebuild what had been lost. Thanks to the Alliance structure laid out, the Ark Alliance was soon able to rival the size and power of the Empire, which the latter did not appreciate. It did not take long until conflict started to arise, which would eventually lead to what we now call the Eternal War, a war that has been going on for 45,000 years and shows no signs of stopping. As of now, the Alliance consists of millions of planets and spans most of the known universe. Despite the war, the average citizen of the Ark Alliance will live a nice and comfortable lives, depending on their class, that is. And don't worry, the class system will be explained later. Just know that life in the Alliance is truly a life worth living. Ah, your brain is starting to melt. Let me grab a sippy. There we go. Leadership structure of the Alliance. So, how does the Alliance function? Who is in charge of millions of planets? Well, with so many planets to take care of, there is no one best system to govern them all, but we believe the one we have in place works wonders. Taking inspiration from the United States back on Earth, the Ark Alliance has three branches of leadership: the founding body of the Ark Alliance, along with being the pioneer of Ark technology. Ark Corp performed some restructuring and became what we call the nope, hit the wrong button. Became the Ark Council. This council would remain separate from the rest of the alliance to oversee operations without bias. From here, the council would establish the class system to ensure all planets are striving for greater aspirations. They determine if a world will rise or fall in class and what resources each category will receive. Counselors are chosen by the AI construct that was once William Tempest, the founder of Ark. A position on the Ark Council is considered a life appointment. The Council serves as the executive branch. Directly below the Ark Council and acting as the enforcing body is the Head Corp. The Head Corp is a changing position given to whatever planet or corporation is considered to perform the best over 5 years. They assist in enforcing and interpreting laws, maintain the military, and ensure peace in the alliance. Their role serves as the judicial branch. On equal footing to the Head Corp, the Senate helps create laws and ensure all alliance members receive a say in its operation. Representation in the Senate is determined by a corporation/nation status, with higher class planets receiving more representation, while lower class planets receive little to none. Organizations are given free rein on how senators are elected, as long as they have the appropriate number for their class. Their role serves as the legislative branch. With this system in place, managing millions of worlds and more is an absolute breeze. And what's better is that everyone has a shot at both power and enacting real change. The only stipulation is how much work you're willing to put in. Which brings us to the Ark Alliance System. Well, the Ark Alliance class system. Though the Alliance functions much like a democracy, power given to its members depends on the organization's power and prestige. Organizations can be divided into 5 separate classifications, defining the assistance they receive from the Alliance, the laws that are applied to them, and their political power. Organizations rise and fall in categories. The Ark Alliance is solely responsible for determining an organization's category, though they make their decisions as transparent as possible. I'm starting to get lightheaded. Okay, we're gonna finish up just this chapter and then we'll call it here. I'll continue reading this, of course, next week. While visitation between worlds is possible, one must receive a certain level upon evaluation to live on a specific planet class. The exception being children and adolescents, who inherits the type of their parents until age 22, where they are given their first evaluation. If a planet's classification changes, all those living on the planet have their class changed and will be evaluated X amount of years accordingly after the planet class change. The 5 categories will be listed below. Class A. Quality of life is outstanding. Considered the best organizations the Alliance has to offer. Those that fall in this class are given ample resources and are free to operate with little oversight. Leaders of these planets/organizations are given extreme influence in the Alliance. Are evaluated every 5 years. Class B. Quality of life? Good. Considered to be upper middle class. Planets in this category see relative success and are relatively safe. Leaders of these planets/organizations are given strong influence in the Alliance, are evaluated once every 2 years. Class C. Quality of life? Decent. Considered the middle class. Those in this category see little struggle providing for themselves. However, they cannot have many luxuries. Leaders of these planets/organizations are given moderate influence in the Alliance, are evaluated once every year. Class D. Quality of life? Bad. Considered to be the lower class. Those in this category struggle to make ends meet. They have no luxuries and have a high crime rate. Leaders of these planets/organizations are given little influence in the Alliance. Are evaluated once every 6 months. Class E. Quality of life is horrible. Considered either new or just lost causes. Organizations that fall into this category have either yet to show promise or have proven themselves inept. Either way, these organizations receive little aid and are heavily monitored. Leaders of these planets/organizations are given little influence in the Alliance, are evaluated once every 3 months. Now, I can bet what you're thinking. We just threw a lot at you, and you probably have many questions. Well, don't worry, we will cover things like performance reports later on. And why would an advanced civilization like the Alliance even have planets that have terrible quality of life? Well, that is very simple. While it would be straightforward for the Alliance to provide everyone with a comfortable life, it would result in stagnation, leading to no progress. So, to make sure everyone is on their toes, and always striving to do their best, we have systems in place to not punish, but encourage citizens to try harder, because the harder you work, the better off you will be. Evaluations. So what exactly is the evaluation system? Well, that's what we are here to explain. While we believe that humanity is at its best when it acts while we believe that humanity is at its best when it acts as a collective, its true power lies in individualism. As such, we think that just because a planet doesn't do well, that the people living on it as such, we think that just because a planet doesn't do well, the people living on it should still have paths open to them, and vice versa. However, unlike planets where they are evaluated by the Ark Council, evaluations are done on a direct supervisor level. They need to be approved all the way up the chain, up to the planet's head corp representative. Evaluations look at job performance, expertise, social life, community assistance, education, and law infractions. All of these will be judged on a scale of 5, ranging from excellent all the way to dismal. The average of the fields will be calculated, and the class will be determined. If someone goes down in class, they are kicked off the planet and sent to a world that best suits their abilities. If someone goes up in a class, they can move to a higher class planet that best suits their abilities. Though, to move up in classes, they must get someone of greater class to endorse them. If someone's class remains the same, unless they are class B or above, they lose 10% of their total income, along with losing the same amount in their food allowance. However, this can be corrected by a grade 3 or higher supervisor by submitting a letter of appreciation. It must be noted that those that reside in Class E have more strict regulations. First, to be considered for reclass, the person must not receive a single dismal on their report. If one does receive a dismal, they will be ineligible for reconsideration for 10 years. Once they have met this requirement, they must have someone Class C or higher endorse them. Finally, the person is given a full psych eval to see if they can function in proper society. Ark. So what exactly is this Ark stuff I keep hearing about? Remember the dangerous magic we mentioned before? Well, Ark is created by devouring that pesky magic and converting it into energy akin to electricity generated by solar or coal, but much more powerful. Now, there are two types of Ark energy, raw and refined. Raw Ark energy is the state Ark is in whenever it has recently devoured magic. It is considered highly dangerous and should not be handled directly. The refined form of Ark energy, this is the energy used in most Ark-based electronics. While much safer than its raw variant, it is still not recommended to handle refined Arc energy directly. Since Arc is created by devouring magic, Arc does receive unique properties that make it even more awesome. The first property is that Arc is a living interconnected data stream. This means that data and other things can be transmitted through Arc as long as an Arc device is present. We like to call this aspect of Arc ArcNet, and has many levels of access. The primary and most crucial level is referred to as common. The common level for users, the common level allows for users to transmit files, host browsers, talk to each other, and many more features that the standard internet would provide. However, unlike the internet, there is no physical servers, as the data is stored within Arc, existing everywhere simultaneously. As long as one has an Arc device, they could message a friend from one corner of the universe to another. Isn't that just awesome? The second property of Arc, the second property in Arc's ability to read and react. The second property is Arc's ability to read and react to emotions. Magic was highly susceptible to sentient life's emotions, further fueling the chaotic nature. However, Arc removes the chaos and allows one to have a healthy read on their mental status. We use this property of Arc as a crime deterrent. If we can tell someone will commit if we can tell someone will commit a crime before they do it, we believe that's a win for everyone. Anti-crime system. So how exactly do we prevent crime? Well, that's a secret, of course. However, we can say that there is a rather complex algorithm that uses Arc to read and determine one's mood and thoughts. The most practical way we apply this is through remote sense cameras. Now, to good law-abiding members of society, this allows us to see when we feel stressed, anxious, depressed, and better find the trigger. It is also an excellent way for companies to see if a potential new hire fits them. But what about bad apples? Using the system, police can remove those that threaten order from society for possible rehabilitation or execution. Though the system is in place on every Alliance planet, its usage is mainly restricted to Class D and below. Instead, law violations for Class C and above are noted and used in their performance reports. As most AI have been outlawed, the algorithm used is imperfect and can only track magical energy. If a fire breaks out in an abandoned building, it will not see it at all. However, suppose someone is nearby or inside the building. In that case, the algorithm will see the change in emotions and send an automated response team. That's where our handy buddies, friend bots, come in. These robots can either be operated manually, by an actual person, or set to autonomous mode, which uses an algorithm to determine if an emergency occurs. FriendBot essentially acts as an all-in-one emergency service tool. They can help combat fires, administer first aid, emergency construction, and limited policing abilities. They are also generally not equipped with weapons. They look for law violations, issue citations, or refer individuals to retraining. In a crime that emote sense cameras cannot see, FriendBot will send a report to the nearest police station. Here is another weird question. If we have this anti-crime system in place, how is crime so rampant, especially on lower class planets? Well, it's simple, and ties into the class system altogether. If everyone feels too safe, they become complicit and will start to stagnate. So, to prevent this from happening, we have to establish a legal crime system. Though the specifics are penned by separate worlds, this system's purpose is to allow those who obtain crime permits to perform crimes as they see fit and be considered an official job. These are considered legal jobs, and these criminals will not be flagged by emote sense cameras as criminals. But they can still be held accountable if caught in the act. This is essentially considered a high risk / high reward career field. This system will allow the violent nature of humanity to flourish while being controlled. It must be noted that one's class does not determine what actions are permitted under a crime permit. The higher one's classes, the more restrictive the permits are, which is considered high society. The lower class ones, the more crimes are covered by a permit, as these plants are considered the dregs of humanity. Please discuss with your head corp representative ways to design your crime permit system. Alliance military. Like many prior human civilizations, the Alliance has a military, and a powerful one at that. However, since the Empire is a bunch of light wielding brutes, direct combat is not ideal. Instead, we have developed many technologies to help us stand equal, if not far above, the Empire. Our military consists of two branches, both of which are vital. The first branch is our cyber naval branch. This branch, as the name suggests, acts as our navy. You will find starships of all shapes and sizes in this branch, all ready to defend the Alliance. But in addition to operating our impressive arc-powered vessels, the Cyber Navy is also in charge of our mechanical units. This branch of the Navy splits into two sub-branches, the first being the Operator branch. This branch in this branch, augmented human pilots are placed into mechanized suits and lead space and ground battles. These type of mechanized suits vary wildly. However, the most standard is the human variant, or a suit that highly resembles the human body. The second sub-branch is the Autonomous branch. This branch consists of remote combat units, such as aerial drones, satellites, and ground forces. This is the most funded and most used branch of the Alliance military, as it is preferred to send soulless machines to fight rather than human lives. However, the second branch is the Ark Defender branch. This branch is our primary ground force and is deployed in areas where high-level aura users are prominent. This is due to the sheer power of said aura users, and that the algorithm-based combat units lack the flexibility to deal with them. This branch consists of two sub-branches. The first branch is the Specialist branch. While this branch is the smallest in the Alliance military, it is the most deadly and highly trained. Those in this branch have undergone arc transfusions, allowing them to surpass human limitations in specific fields. These units can function as soldiers, spies, or intel. The second branch of the Defenders is the second largest in the Alliance, and that is the Auxiliary branch. This branch consists of those that are deemed unfit for society and are unable to be retrained. Their capabilities vary wildly and are not given the most outstanding training, though they are still very deadly. They are deployed alongside combat drones and are considered expendable. Those in this branch can be transferred to other branches if they meet specific criteria. Interactions with aliens. Unlike the Empire, we here in the Alliance prefer not to interact with species that are not human in nature. Well, in origin. This is due to their limited compatibility with Ark, and most alien species being violent in nature. That is not to say that aliens don't live among us. However, no matter what world they reside in, they will be treated as Class D and below citizens. Even notable or important aliens are only treated like Class C citizens. We understand that most might not like the system, however, it is in humanity's better interest to keep its distance from alien species. What's next? Now that you have a broad understanding of the Ark Alliance, the next step is to fill out the essential paperwork and start fully optimizing your planet today. Since you are a new asset to the Alliance, you will be starting off as a Class E planet. But since you are in a new higher state, you can advance in class if you prove your worth. So, show us what you've got. And that is chapter 2.5. Oh boy, I wore myself out. So, we will pick up on this. We're about 14% way through the book. I hope you guys enjoyed. I'm going to go rest my poor little brainy brain. And tune in tomorrow for either Date Night or Crash Bandicoot. Honestly, probably Crash Bandicoot just because I need something kind of easy on the braino. But until next time, guys, enjoy. If you're watching this on YouTube, please let me know what you think so far in the comments. Again, the book does need some heavy editing just to make sure things flow properly. But yeah, just let me know if you guys are enjoying the world I'm creating. Other than that, um, take care, and I hope you guys have a good time. All right, bye bye.